Well, here it is, summertime already. Yogi Berra said it gets late real early around here. Time flies when you're having fun. Now, holidays, the core of that word is holy, holy days, time set apart. This is when we step outside of everyday realities. Now, we don't step outside our work all summer, but consciously we shift a little bit. It's something different. This Sunday is midway between the summer solstice and Independence Day. This is the beginning of it now, some changing. And it's finally gotten warm around here, which we tend to put summer off in terms of the temperature for a while, but this time we get a little taste. It's happening. You know, the 4th of July used to be the biggest holiday in the year. Christmas overtook it, and Halloween now, but it's the ancient worship of the sun, which is the source of life. So even the people of more primitive times knew that and celebrated. They would have bonfires. Now we do it with fireworks, but some acknowledgement of this radiance that we are getting. This longest day, we honor the sun that keeps us alive. Maybe with a barbecue. I'm just trying to think of variations on the theme here. Or maybe a joyful exuberance. We need expansive moments. And how about that word, independence? We need our independence. We need liberation. Maybe it's from old oppressive beliefs or fears or ideas. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, I don't know if we can have happiness. We can pursue it, follow our bliss. There is a delicate balance between empowerment and connection, but we work at it here. We try to be free and connected. It is a creative tension. The poetry of the season takes me to Stephen Sondheim's wonderful musical, A Little Night Music. In it, the grandmother figure, she's in a wheelchair, she's the wise crone of the story. She explains how the summer night smiles 3 times at the follies of being human, of course. The first smile is for the young who know nothing. The second smile is at the fools who know too little. And the third is at the old who know too much. So starting at the beginning, childhood. We were younger once, remember? The summer smiles on the young who know nothing. Innocence, discovery. Innocence is not altogether fun because you don't know what's going on, and that's the discovery part. The 2-year-old boy scared his family one summer by disappearing during a lakeside vacation. A dozen relatives searched the forest and the shoreline. Everyone was relieved when he was found playing calmly in the woods. "Listen to me, young man," his mother said sharply. "From now on, when you want to go someplace, you tell mommy first, okay?" The boy thought about it and said, "Okay, Disneyland." So we have some expectations of this season. Some adventure maybe, the long luxurious days, swimming, something sensual. We're more physical, we're more embodied this time of year. And this is the season when a lot of parents pack up their troubles and send them off to summer camp. I never went to summer camp. There was one attached to our church. My sisters went. I didn't go. I've been up there. It's called the Forest Home Christian Conference Center. It's not far from De Benneville Pines, up in the woods. Pretty place. Where did you go? Did you go to the shore? We would go sometimes to what was called Ocean Park Pier, down just south of Santa Monica, and it later became Pacific Ocean Park, then it got torn down. Things come, things go. It seemed ancient at the time and fun, play games and waste money. Did you go to the mountains? We would go to Yosemite once in a while. I went back, and the campground we always went to isn't a campground anymore. There was some program there of letting certain parts go back to nature, so it's all forest now. I'm thinking, but we used to sleep right there where that tree is. Okay, things change. Memories don't, though. I go back to the tree I swam by in the unbelievably cold Merced River. What we did most summers was called Daily Vacation Bible School. The local churches, I realize now it was childcare, but they pumped us up and said, "You're going to be crusaders." Oh, good, I'm a crusader. I had a cardboard sword, and all right. And we didn't just go to the one our church did. My mother was crafty. She would scout out all the nearby local churches, and actually it was fun. It was fun. I am particularly grateful. I wrote it down. What's the name of that church? It was the Lutheran Church in North Hollywood. And because one day the teacher, who was all of 15, and we were like 9 and 8 and so forth, took us into the little chapel and explained the room to us, explained what the letters on the cross meant. I don't even remember what the letters are, and what the stained glass windows were all about, and what these stories were. And then she pointed to the steps. There were 3 steps. That's for the Holy Trinity. It was a lecture in symbolism. I had never heard of this, that these things all meant stuff. Cool, like a whole new dimension of reality opened to me. Those of you who know me know that I've been a professor of symbolism. That's what I went and studied and have followed to this day, and you get it in your sermons, ready or not. But okay, I'm grateful to Daily Vacation Bible School, although I don't read the Bible much anymore. I remember it though, so there were some good ideas in there. Okay, remembering sweet, expansive time. There are wonderful stories about this. In Dandelion Wine, this novel is highly autobiographical that Ray Bradbury wrote about childhood. Dandelion wine, and there is a motif in there of making wine from dandelions that are saved. These bottles of wine are saved in the basement, and then later, when it's colder, you could have a little bit of it to remember summer. Doug Spalding is 12. There's a forest, there's a lot of exploration, but there are dark parts too. A body is found in that forest, and Doug learns a few things he'd rather not know. And at one point, his brother tells the junk man is kind of the oracle, the wisdom figure in the story. His name is Mr. Jonas. And Doug's brother Tom tells the junk man, lots of things have happened to Doug. It's been a tough summer. And he falls into a dream. And in his dream, Mr. Jonas, the junk man, comes to him and leaves a bottle for him of green dusk for dreaming brand pure northern air. It's not explained what this magical stuff is, but if you study mythology, there are these wisdom figures, the crone, the wise old woman, or the magician, the wizard, shows up and often gives you something. And it might be an actual object, or it might be given in a dream and not be there for you to touch. But it's the thing you will need in the situation you cannot handle. It is wisdom. So Doug has green dusk for dreaming brand pure northern air. It's kind of heavy story. There's a lot of loss of innocence in this story. One of the characters is a Mr. Mr. Offman. And Mr. Offman has spent the longest time in his workshop building a happiness machine. And everybody's waiting, and people know about it, but they don't see him much. He's in his workshop working on this thing, and he makes it, and it works. Well, at least for Mr. Offman. He is delighted, and this thing goes buzz and whiz. Amazing, the happiness machine. And this is quite a remarkable thing in this small town, until one day Mr. Offman is checking out his happiness machine, and he notices his young son standing nearby crying. And he's mystified. How could he be crying when there's a happiness machine here? It takes him a while to figure out that the boy has missed his father, who was too busy building the happiness machine to do much fathering. Later in the story, the key characters, Douglas and his brother Tom and Grandpa, are standing outside of Mr. Hoffman's house. They're walking somewhere, and he comes out and he said, I found the real happiness machine. You want to see it? And they say they do. And he points to the front window of his house, through which you can see his wife and kids. There it is. That one designed thousands of years ago. It works. There's a happiness. Now, it doesn't work all the time, but it does a lot. It's pretty reliable. So I reread that and thought, that's what we're doing here. We're building a happiness machine, and it works. And we've known this forever, for thousands of years, that community helps us, makes us feel better. And it doesn't work all the time, but it's pretty reliable. Toward the end of Dandelion Wine, Douglas starts noticing how small things are what seem to make him happy. Inanimate objects, little things in nature offer transient joys. But the great and lasting happiness comes from love between people. Machines break down, rust out. But in their codes and rituals and descendants, people do live on. And in one scene, it's evening, Douglas listens to the twilight voices of the grown-ups on the porch after supper. He sprawls back on the dry porch planks, completely contented and reassured by these voices, which would speak on through eternity, flow in a stream of murmurings over his body, over his closed eyelids, into his drowsy ears for all time. The voices chanted and moved on into the coming years. Well, adulthood comes, we grow up, and the summer smiles a second time at the fools who know too little. Well, life is about knowing too little. We're always getting ready, we're always learning, and that seems to be the adventure. School was that, and then the big school that comes after that. Diane Ackerman says, nothing is more memorable than a smell. One scent can be unexpected, momentary, and fleeting, yet conjure up a childhood summer beside a lake in the mountains. So we have all those other summers. Sam Keen, the philosopher, says, easy mood, less stress, time with friends. Deep summer is when laziness finds respectability. Maybe we give ourselves a break from all our compulsive doing a little bit. Maybe we get outside, commune with the spirits. This is nature religion, okay? This is the earth-centered worship of living. Scenery, hiking, learning from the wisdom of the body. Go to a place that's just a little bit beyond our worries. Virginia Woolf wrote a book called To the Lighthouse. It was her most autobiographical novel. And she writes about this lighthouse, which was off the coast a little on a bit of an island, at the place where they took a summer cottage a number of times, this family that she writes about. There is a trip out to the lighthouse that is proposed by the son, and he wants they've got a little sailing boat, and it's not that far, it's not that difficult, but the father's concerned about the weather. The sea might get choppy. The weather's fine, but it's postponed. It's postponed again and again through the novel. What is that? What's the symbol going on here? Maybe it's how we put off our quest for enlightenment. What's the lighthouse anyway? How we're too busy doing this and that, and a small thing, a little sailing trip out to the lighthouse. It finally happens, but it takes quite a long time. That son is not a child anymore by the time they sail over, and the weather is fine. And he's always been worried about his father criticizing him. But his father praises his sailing skills, and it goes well. Should have done it earlier. So what are you going to do with summer? You're going to have some fun? You're going to find a mood of elation, a tenderness of heart? Are there going to be family outings? One of my favorite quotes, which you have heard from me before, is happiness is having a large, loving, caring, close-knit family in another city. I stole that from George Burns, isn't it? Who was a family guy, who loved his family, but he loved a good joke better. Okay. And then elderhood comes, if we're lucky. Summer smiles the third time at the old who know too much. There are studies, satisfaction, self-acceptance, fulfillment, the reports of being happy go up when you get old. despite the aches and pains, despite not being as energetic or as good looking. That, yeah, people finally get over criticizing themselves a little, give themselves a little slack. Maybe it's the accumulated experience, maybe it's the self-knowledge. We start letting ourselves have some poetic thoughts, some good dreams. You know that song, it has the word recreated in it, but it's the same word as recreation. God's recreation, but we always sing it, we look at it, we sing it as recreation. Well, maybe recreation is recreation. Maybe that's what we're doing during the summer when we have some fun. Shakespeare wrote a play about this, The Midsummer's Night's Dream. He saw the fairy queen and the plant spirits as blessings, the angels, if you will, from the earth-based traditions. We go out and watch the fairies dance in the summer night. There's renewal in that. So when you get out into the forest, if you do, or just go for a hike around town, because actually where we live, there are so many trees, you can be walking, on a street full of houses and you're still in a forest of sorts. Be there in a state of worship if you can conjure it. Be open to the fairies and sprites and leprechauns if you see one. We have rabbits at the moment. We've had raccoons and possum and got a lot of squirrels, birds, and right now we've got rabbits. And they're eating the ground cover, which is a pain. That stuff was hard to put down. But they're rabbits. I'm communing with them. It's great. It's great. We yearn for the spaciousness of summertime, the long days, the luxurious length of time. Trust this opening to your delight itself. It is the season of light. Let us be light-hearted. Okay, there was in my notes, action steps. They're lost in my notes, but I'm going to find them because I want to reflect on what we do with all this. Completely lost them. Action steps. I suggest that you make a list of the revelations and life lessons you learned during past summers. If you keep a journal, make a few notes. Things you learned during this season that maybe were unique to this part of the year. And then consider taking this summer as a chance to deepen your awareness of the spiritual dimensions of nature. I guess I'm worshiping rabbits at the moment. Whatever comes to you, whatever connection speaks to you, delights you. When you take your hike or walk on the beach, let it be numinous. Let the beauty be a visitation from the life force itself. And my last action step is to study the passage of time as a great mystery. See what it can teach us. In closing, I'll quote from an old song that evokes the seasons. It's called I Wish You Love. I wish you bluebirds in the spring to give your heart a song to sing and then a kiss. But more than this, I wish you love. And in July, a lemonade to cool you in some leafy glade. I wish you health, but more than wealth, I wish you love. Namaste. Blessed be. And so it goes.